Abortion is like growing up underprivileged. White women are busy talking about it, while black women are the ones actually doing it. Clinics sure love sucking fluid, business, from the minorities of America. Now, I believe in a woman's right to choose, but there's a ton of nuance in that conversation. What's the latest acceptable stage of abortion? Are clinics run to bolster women's health or exploit it? And should a man help pay for it? Instead of open conversation, these closed-off, binary echo chambers dominate the political landscape. Politicians are flirting harder with bans than they did with children on Epstein's Island. I'm kidding. Flirting implies that the other side is old enough to speak. Let's face it, more politicians would be pro-choice if it meant you could kill the kid after you had sex with them. Late-stage abortion, more like early adolescent misfortune. Now, to the average American not intertwined in a demonic sex trafficking ring, abortion isn't something that you perform on an altar alongside 20 of your closest black male buddies. It's a real-world issue that could have real consequences on your life or someone else's. Whether you're on the right or the left, I think we can all agree that there are levels to this shit. It's not as simple as are you for it or against it. Also, why do the same people who claim that a cluster of fetal cells equals a human life refuse to lift a finger to help the thousands of black men being imprisoned in a cluster of prison cells, courtesy of a corrupt judicial system? And can pro-choice feminists stop saying, "I eat babies"? I was mostly with you until you started ordering baby Bloody Marys with your avocado toast. Now, maybe a cluster of cells is a human life and I'm just too dumb to see it. Maybe babies are so annoying that we should add drive-through lanes to Planned Parenthood. What do I know? I'm just a stupid man with skin whiter than his privilege. I'm so white that Will Smith couldn't slap me in a snowstorm. But hey, the good thing is that Jada doesn't have to come out and say she's pro-choice because she already has the head of a newborn. Which brings me to today's first topic. Enough with the alopecia shenanigans, let's get into it. As you can probably tell from that monologue, we are starting with abortion. And this is a story that comes from NBC News, and it is called 5 Fetuses Found in the Home of an Anti-Abortion Activist. This is from NBC News, and it reads, Washington, D.C. officers discovered 5 fetuses inside the Capitol Hill home where an anti-abortion activist lives, police say. Police went to 28-year-old Lauren Handy's basement apartment in the 400 block of 6th Street on Wednesday afternoon to investigate a tip about a potential biohazard material at the house. The Metropolitan Police Department said in a statement, the medical examiner's office collected the fetuses and police are investigating, the department told News 4. No further information was available about the fetuses, including where they came from. If you are going against abortion, if you are an anti-abortion activist, and like I just said in the previous monologue, there are many nuances to the conversation. I'm obviously trying to poke the bear a little bit. I'm trying to make it fun, make it interesting, show how there's hypocrisy on both sides of the spectrum. By the way, this is not just inclusive to the topic of abortion. You see this in everything, with border control, with abortion, with, you name it, financial restrictions, COVID. Both sides turn into a parody of themselves because they're thinking that they have stopped thinking and they've just started saying these rehearsed talking points over and over again without actually thinking about it. And then you grind to a halt because your feet are grounded in the same stance and you refuse to change your opinion. You refuse to accept new information. And so that was, I'm having fun with the monologue. But with this case, this is an anti-abortion activist who had 5 fetuses found in her home. And to me, this is like finding used needles in the bathroom of an anti-drug activist's house. Like, what are the fetuses doing in your house? If you are against abortion is literally ending a pregnancy, and in many of those pregnancies that are ended, you have a fetus, For a lot of early stage abortions, you're not going to get this fully formed thing that looks like a fetus. It might look like a lot of fluid mashed together. It doesn't look like something human. But if obviously the pregnancy goes on and it develops, you get something that looks like a more like a human baby. It's like if a baby respawned in Halo, the first thing you would see is this fetus before it turns into a fully formed human. This anti-abortion activist had it in her house. She had the thing that she hates. She's against ending a pregnancy, and she was keeping the results of having a pregnancy in her house. This is why I'm comparing it to someone. It's like someone who says I'm against drugs. I'm anti-drugs in all form. Coke, weed, heroin, just a staunch anti-stance against all things drugs, and you walk into the person's bathroom and you prick your foot on a heroin needle and you're like, dude, why is this in your house? What are we doing here? Why do you have the thing that you hate in your house? Is there something you're not telling me? Are you feeling a type of way on the outside and another type of way on the inside? The story goes on to say that Handy is one of the 9 abortion activists who were charged Wednesday with the federal civil rights offenses after they blocked access to a reproductive health center and streamed it on Facebook. So it sounds like they did some sort of protest. People were going into Planned Parenthood or some abortion clinic, and they were charged with not letting people get in to get the services. Which, they should be able to. I said, I believe in the woman's right to choose. Eating babies is another thing, but the woman's right to choose, yes, I am on board with. The charges include a violation of federal law known as the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, or the FACE Act, which prohibits physically obstructing or using the threat of force to intimidate or interfere with a person seeking reproductive health services. The law also prohibits damaging property at abortion clinics and reproductive health centers. So again, this woman is part of a group that was protesting abortions. She's standing outside. She's even preventing people access to getting the abortions, the services provided by the abortion clinic. I know not everyone who goes to an abortion clinic ultimately gets an abortion. Sometimes they're just looking for information. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of these people were looking to get abortions, and she was part of the barricade to ending pregnancies in front of the building. And so it's weird. It seems weird to me when I first read this story. It's like just someone that would have 5 fetuses in their house. I'm thinking of someone who's running a lab experiment. They're, maybe it's a leftover. Some guy who his grandfather was a Nazi scientist, and he happened upon his grandfather's old teachings, his grandfather's old experiments, and he's like, oh, what's this? And he slowly gets brainwashed into thinking that it's okay to experiment on humans, but he wants to practice on fetuses first, or she, because anyone could become a Nazi in that sense. He or she, it's inclusive that way. Nazis are one of the most inclusive people on the planet, if you didn't know. I'm joking, but why are there fetuses in a jar? I assume there were no pictures of it in the article, but what reason besides human experimentation or just showing it off as some sort of sick trophy? This reminds me of practicing in 8th grade when someone dissected a frog, when we were taught to dissect and learn about the human body by dissecting a frog. Is this person a science teacher that is like, fuck it, if we're trying to breed doctors in my class, we gotta bring them straight to the source. We gotta have them experiment on human organs. We can't fuck around with this frog shit. If I'm gonna end this, if I am going to teach my students to all become successful, successful doctors. If I'm a science teacher, I want them to go on to be scientists, teachers, doctors. We need to teach them early what it's like to put their hands on a human body, to experiment on the human form, and to learn the ins and outs of it. So here's a fetus for you to cut open, Susie. Have fun. Is the anti-abortion person secretly an experimental high school science teacher? I don't know. It's a possibility. This kind of reminds me of the politician. You remember when gay marriage was first being voted on, and there were a lot of politicians who came out against gay marriage. I believe even Barack Obama was against gay marriage for a decent period of time. And you had a few politicians that were staunchly against gay marriage. They were so against it that they were going to gay weddings just to break them up, so they could be the person that sits in the background, and when the officiator says speak now or forever hold your peace, they could be the ones that stand up in the back of the wedding and say, I object, because God does not want this, or for whatever reason that they don't believe in gay marriage. But this reminds me, this anti-abortion situation with the person having fetuses in her actual house, it reminds me of the politicians that were staunchly against gay marriage but are secretly sucking cock on political business trips. Like, it comes out later that they were hiring male prostitutes and all this stuff, and it's like, oh, you were compensating for something. There was something going on. You didn't hate gay people, you hated yourself. Does this woman who's hiding fetuses in her house see herself as, as a child, and she wants to just surround herself with other children that could have been born in this vat of self-hatred? I don't know. But it's possible. It's possible. So there actually was an article in the New York Times that came out that offers this sort of, explanation for why these women had their hands on the fetuses, why these I don't know if all of them were women, but why these anti-abortion activists had fetuses in the first place, how they got them. Did they rip them out of someone? Did they dive through the garbage dump of a Planned Parenthood? So this is an article that reads, anti-abortion activists say they were allowed to take 115 fetuses. This is in the New York Times. Anti-abortion activists say that they were allowed to take 115 fetuses. Anti-abortion activists claim on Tuesday that 5 fetuses that were removed from an apartment in Washington last week had been in a box containing a total of 115 that the driver of a medical waste truck voluntarily allowed them to take from his dolly outside an abortion clinic. They claim that Miss Handy and Miss Bukovinich had gone to the Washington Surgery Clinic to protest abortions on March 25th, when they happened upon a Curtis Bay driver who was loading boxes outside. They told him that there were dead babies inside. Or they told him that there were quote-unquote dead babies inside, they said, and they asked him if he would get in trouble if they took one of the boxes. This is where the mischief begins. When he asked what they planned to do with it, they promised a quote-unquote proper burial, and he said, okay, and gestured toward his dolly. They said. Miss Handy grabbed one of the boxes and took it back to her apartment, and the story goes on to say that, the 5 babies that they found were babies that haven't been buried yet. These 5 babies were waiting, the fetuses were waiting to be buried. First of all, what is this truck driver doing? Can we just say that this guy, despite what you think about this abortion or this anti-abortion story, despite where you stand on that, can we all agree that this truck driver is just terrible at his job. This is a story of someone being terrible at their job more than it's a story about abortion. Imagine you're hired to drive a truck. In your contract, it says, go to point A, pick up the things in point A, make sure they all get into the truck and it's accounted for. Then make sure those things get to point B. And maybe point B was a garbage dump or something, a biohazard waste, it sounds like. Even if it's getting thrown out anyway, it's still your job to take out the trash if that is what you do. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's an honorable profession to be a truck driver or transport guy, garbage guy, but you have a specific job. And the fact that this guy was hired at this place, this transport firm for baby carcasses, you know, maybe he didn't even know what was in there, but he clearly had a job that said, bring this to this location. This is your job today. Go to Dunkin' Donuts, get a coffee, stop at Planned Parenthood. They're going to put some boxes in the back of your truck, check them off, stamp them, mark them, and then make sure it gets to the biohazard waste facility. And then knowing the things that he had to do, knowing the professional burden and knowing the duty that this guy had, these two women walk up to him and go, hey, we see you have some dead babies. Would you mind just scraping some off the top and we'll take care of it? You don't need to know. You don't need to know what we're going to do with those, but just give us a couple boxes. How was this guy just like, yeah, take them. I don't give a shit. I mean, it's my job to directly account for the proper handling and transport of each individual box, but no, go ahead and take 2 of them. I've only have 3, but go take 2/3 of my job today. And when I get back, I'll just tell my boss. My boss will be like, where did you bring the boxes? Did you bring the boxes to the biohazard waste facility? And I'll say, no, I brought 1 of the boxes, but 2 of them didn't make it there. And my boss will probably be angry at me and he'll say, why? How could you not make sure the boxes got there? How could you not do your job? How could you not ensure the safety of the transport of these materials? And that's when I'll say, these two women drinking baby's blood with a shirt that said, I eat babies, came up to me and they said, do you mind if we take 2 of those off your hands? And I said, yeah. And my boss, the boss will just be like, oh, I get it. You know, I would have done the same thing. I'm just kidding. He's fired. He's gone. This is a story about incompetence more than it is about abortion. But to go back to the women, the anti-abortion activists, women, men, whoever was in this group that took 115 babies, 115 fetuses. This is completely normal behavior for someone who believes that terminating a pregnancy is equivalent to killing a baby, is equivalent to taking a human life. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And I fall into this trap too. When I don't really debate people on the podcast. I have conversations. I don't go into it with a defensive debate mindset. If a debate develops during the podcast, sure, that's fun. I'm trying to have good conversations. I'm trying to have fun. I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to be open. I'm trying to come in with decent research. But when a debate develops, a lot of people assume that they believe what they believe more than the other person believes what that person believes. Do you get what I'm saying? That because you are having your own egocentric experience, you assume that no one could believe what you believe more than you do. But the thing is, other people walk around this earth, other people walk around this planet all believing the shit that they believe, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's crazy or sane or somewhere in between. Everyone believes what they believe as strongly as you do, as strongly as I do. And that is probably the biggest lesson that I've learned from podcasting, that other people, whether you agree with them or not, they hold strong beliefs. And just because I'm the one experiencing life through my own eyes doesn't mean that I believe the things that I believe any stronger than this person believes what they believe, what you believe, what you believe. You have your own beliefs. You believe them to the fucking, hopefully not till death, but you believe them hopefully until you're presented with new information. And then you can reevaluate, you think about your opinion, you go back, you're like, oh, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. And that is how you change. But where conversation doesn't happen is when someone comes in thinking that they believe what they believe more strongly, or that they're somehow more entitled to that belief than someone else. And even if you're right and the other person is dead-faced wrong, you're not going to change their opinion if you go into it like that. So to go back to this example, if someone believes that an abortion is murder, this is completely normal behavior for someone who believes that. You would want to give the fetus a proper burial because you believe a life was lost. And that's what a lot of pro-choice people, pro-abortion people don't get, that they're interacting with people who believe just as strongly that the fetus is a human life, just like they believe that it's not, or a cluster of cells, whatever. So I do believe in a woman's right to choose up to a point, but I also feel for this woman who in her mind is burying babies. She's burying a human life. She's putting them to rest. And people don't, I don't want to say people because people may be listening to this on both sides, pro-choice, pro-life, whatever. I don't really like the labels because then it insinuates one side cares more about life than others. The conversation of abortion is very binary, as I said in the monologue, and I wanted to poke fun at the lack of nuance in it. Because if you're forced to take a side, are you pro-life? Are you pro-choice? Are you a feminist? Are you not? Like, tell me your ideas. Tell me what you think. Don't tell me your label and say, are you this? Are you that? You haven't even told me what you believe yet. Rather than identifying with these labels, a much better way is to think about ideas, talk about ideas, have a discussion. We need more conversation and less binary talking points. And I'm sure my view on abortion will change drastically over the next year, 5 years, 10 years. Maybe 6 months from now, I will be the staunchest anti-abortion activist you've ever seen if new evidence comes out that says, a cluster of cells feels, I don't know, some intense pain, capable of human intelligence. Who knows? I don't know. I'm open to being proved wrong. I hope that I'm right, but I'm open to being wrong. And I'm not always great at that. And when I first started doing these solo podcasts, I would get kind of like, I always have to have a hard take. And hard takes are great. Hard takes are entertaining. I still do that. But have a hard take and be open to that take being completely 100% upended fucking wrong a week later or a month later or a year later, 10 years later, and then have a harder take on why you were wrong. Make fun of yourself, Post a video of you at an abortion rally wearing I Eat Babies t-shirt, drinking baby's blood, and talk about, how close-minded you were, or the other side where you're, killing cells is killing a life. I don't know. It's just, we need more conversation, less binary talking points, more people willing to communicate and seeing that the other side believes the things just as strongly as they hold their beliefs, as you hold your beliefs, as I believe. Everyone believes something. And the problem is a lot of people believe it to the death of them, but everyone believes it with the same strength, the same intensity. whether it's founded on evidence or not, whether it's founded in an intelligent understanding or research. It's a very human thing to have a very deep belief of something without, having a real reason to do it. But you have to recognize that you're dealing with people like that. And if you want to change your minds, you have to acknowledge that you're not entitled to your belief. It's not stronger than someone else's just because, again, you're looking at it from your own experience. You feel like you're experiencing the world through your own body and mind, and that takes over. And sometimes we can get in these states, and I get in these states where I'm like, how do you not fucking see it? How do you not see the world the way that I do? How do you not have all my experiences and same views and same talking points and all this stuff? Don't you see? Like, the world is Brooklyn, New York. And it's like, no, this person has no fucking idea. This person has no idea what it's like to live your experiences because they haven't, and they could probably teach you something, and you might be able to teach them something. So don't expect that person to just believe what you believe because you feel like they should, or you feel like their opinion is wrong. You have to be able to explain it and step outside and talk about what you believe in objectively, because if you can't, you honestly, you don't deserve to, you have to earn your beliefs. You have to earn the right to change someone's mind. You're not entitled to that. The next topic, Louis C.K. wins a Grammy for the best comedy album. Louis C.K. wins a Grammy for the best comedy album. That album was titled Sincerely. He's also released another comedy special named Sorry that has been released since then, which you can get both on his website. They're both fucking fantastic, phenomenal. I was fortunate enough to see Sincerely live with both of my brothers in New Jersey. This was December 2019 when he was touring before he filmed the special, and it was fucking incredible. The best live comedy experience that I have had in my life was seeing Louis C.K. perform Sincerely. That was sincerely the best experience that I have had. One thing that I realized about Louis C.K., and I wanted to talk about this, is I've seen comedians live, and I've seen the special come out after the fact. So in my mind, when I'm seeing the special, I'm comparing it to the live performance, how things change, how they didn't, idiosyncrasies, things like that. I'm a huge fan of comedy. I watch at least 15, 20 minutes of comedy a day, no joke. Like, stand-up comedy, I fucking love it. I watch it almost every lunch. I'll just watch it. That's how I relax. I love, nothing relaxes me and makes me feel at ease more than dark comedy about uncomfortable subjects. It just makes me feel at home. And what I will say about the Louis C.K. album is that when I saw it live, I was so captivated, and I was so there, and I was picking up on all these things he was doing subconsciously, like the faces he was making, his timing. There were a lot of things in his act that, seeing it live, I thought were sort of blips in speech or mistakes, missteps, working out an act. But it was still very funny. I thought, some things where he would say something and pause for a second and go, oh, I actually meant this, or like he'd like touch his head and like kind of sigh, like he was trying to think of what to say. And then I saw the special he released online that I bought from his website, which again is more than worth it. $7 or something like that. I saw the special that he taped, and all of those things were still in there. So all of those like sighs and like slip ups in speech, but like timing, I know a lot of comedians they're obviously working on timing, that the jokes will stay the same from the live special to the taping. But I've never seen someone orchestrate their act to the microscopic detail that Louis C.K. does. He zooms in more than any comedian that I've witnessed, and I've seen many live acts, and then have later seen specials or tapings on Netflix or YouTube, whatever. Louis C.K., it seems like he's at a granular level of comedy that no other comedian is. No other comedian is zooming in as far as the breathing, the eye movements, the facial, not just the facial expressions, but like certain parts of the face. Like, just like he'll say a joke, and I know exactly what his face looked like live because it was such an accentuated moment, and then I see him make literally the same exact like just expression, and it's timed exactly the same, and he says something and then he pulls it back, and when I saw it live I thought it was a mistake, like, oh, I said this, and it added to the joke, and then I see the taping and it's exactly the same way. I've never seen a comedian take such a granular comb to their act like Louis C.K. does. The top YouTube comment on his special preview, he put out a 5-minute preview of Sincerely on YouTube. If you want to go check it out, it's on his channel. I saw the top comment, and it stood out to me. The top comment said, Louis has more heart in his stand-up than in most people's apology video. Quote unquote apology videos. I just burped up some heart right there. Again, the top YouTube comment on Louis' special was, Louis has more heart in his stand-up than in most people's quote-unquote apology videos. And if you don't know what I'm talking about by apology videos, there are a bunch of these, YouTube scandals. I think David Dobrik made one, or Shane Dawson. There was this, even in mainstream acting, there was this cringy video where people were apologizing for being extremely racist or something in Hollywood, and it was like this black and white video that the dude from Breaking Bad was in. And I'm forgetting exactly what they say in the video, but the essence of these apology videos is, I'm so sorry. But the only reason they're saying sorry is because they got caught doing something. Their PR firm, marketing team said, you have to get in front of the camera and give this heartfelt apology. And it's so obvious that these apologies don't mean shit because it's just so over the top, performative, apologetic. It's like, you don't fucking give a shit. You're just doing it because it's part of the formula. It's part of the formula. It's, we will cancel you. We will take you down. We will deplatform you unless you get on your knees and you suck our cocks in the form of an apology video. And only then, when you make us come with the most just self-deprecating, fake bullshit apology, will we allow you to continue to make content. So like, these apology videos are so fucking cringy. And I know I don't remember exactly what Louis C.K. said in the aftermath of the incident, when he got canceled, quote unquote canceled, for masturbating in front of other people. He talked about it in his special. It's hilarious. He released something in writing, and I'm not even going to paraphrase it because I don't remember exactly what he said, and I don't want to fuck it up. But I don't remember it striking me as fake. I remember it being like, oh, this guy, he did something. He feels ashamed of it. Now the whole world is looking at him. Eyes are on him, and he's processing it. He's not saying, I'm so sorry. Let me back in the industry. Like, I'll do whatever you want. he's saying just, I like how I said I'm not going to paraphrase what did Louis C.K. saying in his apology, and now I'm just doing exactly that. But I got the sentiment that it was a very introspective statement where he was just going to step back for a while. He knew something was wrong, didn't know exactly what, and it seemed authentic. I don't even want to call it an apology. It was just an authentic introspection and the realization that something had been wrong in what he was doing. And authenticity is rewarded. That's what people don't get. If you're not genuinely apologetic for what you are doing, don't apologize for it, and don't fake an apology or say why you aren't apologetic about it, or just keep making the content you're making or keep doing your job. You don't say something that doesn't align with how you think and how you feel, because it's going to be exposed. It's so fucking obvious. Like, even if you're being rewarded for an apology by the circle of fake people in your industry, the general public knows you're taking your mask off to the general public and saying, I'm a fraud. And Louis C.K. never did that. He remained authentic. He took a step back, and he came back with such a... It feels wrong to call his special heartfelt, because it's hilarious, number one. That's the reason why I love Louis C.K. and I love any other comic that's my favorite, is because he or she is hilarious. Number one, what you say has to be funny. And with that hilarity, it did feel heartfelt. It did feel authentic. I feel like I was listening to a guy that was genuinely struggling and genuinely went through a period of, I'm not apologizing and trying to move on quickly. I'm acknowledging, and I'm taking a step back, and I'm just doing whatever the fuck I have to do to get through my day-to-day life. So authenticity is rewarded. People are also saying that in the wake of Louis C.K. winning a Grammy, that this makes him uncancelable. That Louis C.K. can't be canceled because he won a Grammy. Let me be clear. Grammy Awards, Oscars, none of these award shows mean shit. The only reason why people tune into awards anymore, I'm talking about the average person. I'm not talking about Hollywood. I'm talking about the average viewer across America that has a job, that has kids, that has Netflix, that has all these other forms of entertainment. The only reason someone tunes into the Oscars or the Grammys is because someone entertaining is hosting. They don't give a shit about the actual awards. The last time I watched a full award show was because of Ricky Gervais when he was hosting the Golden Globes. And even then, after the first couple times he hosted, I would just wait until the clips were posted on YouTube so I wouldn't have to sit through the nauseating process of waiting for him to come back on stage and make it entertaining. So Louis C.K. is not uncancelable because he got a Grammy. He's uncancelable because of the millions of people who watched his special. That's the only thing that matters. He would still be uncancelable if he never won an award for the rest of his life, because he has millions of fans. And that's what people don't get. I'm publishing a story on Auxoro by the author Chris Cooper, and I've had him on the Auxoro podcast a couple times. And if you don't know, it's my other podcast where I have guests on. This is the solo podcast, but I'm publishing a story that was written by Chris Cooper, the first story that I'm ever publishing on Auxoro. I've only published podcasts that I've made. This is the first piece of art from another creator that I'm putting out through Auxoro, which is very exciting. And I had a conversation with Chris before he published where he got all these other offers from these traditionally prestigious magazines. And they were offering him more money, but their marketing was shit. And they weren't being transparent about their readership, Like these literary companies were resting on the prestige. They were resting on their laurels of the past, that they were the gatekeepers of the literary industry, the short story fictional industry, which is not the case anymore. You don't need these traditional platforms. You don't need these traditional forms of awards or recognition to gain a fan base, to be a good artist, to have prestige. You can generate prestige from within by generating a fan base with good work and consistent good work. And so I spoke to Chris, and he had these other offers from, again, these very traditional, like, staunch magazines that if I said them, you go like, oh, that's like a very, it's a good magazine, it's well known. People in the literary world would know more about it. I don't really fuck with that. The publishing industry have not really gotten into that. And he said to me that he wanted to go with Auxoro because of the fan base that I had, of the marketing that I could offer with the way that I create content and reels and Instagram graphics and quotes, and just the way that I'm pushing content out there, and also the numbers that I have on my page. Even though I'm not a traditional publisher of stories, his audience aligns with my audience because, we both like dark humor. We both like philosophical conversations, getting into shit. He's been on the podcast multiple times, and he always does well. He's such a good guest. And he said to me straight up, he's just like, again, I'm saying the spirit of what he said, not his actual words, but it was, fuck the, not fuck the traditional literature magazines, but just like, it's not about that anymore. If you have an audience, you have an audience. If you don't, you don't. There are a lot of traditional platforms, and I'm saying this because award shows like the Oscars and the Grammys, they stopped innovating decades ago. The show is exactly the fucking same as it has been for the past 50 years. And they just rely on the fact that because of the name, the prestige of the Oscars or the Grammys, or people are just going to tune in because of that, and people aren't. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if the CEO of the Oscars organization, whatever the fuck it's called, gave Will Smith $10 million to slap Chris Rock across the stage because everyone wants to see a round 2 next year. Is Jake Paul's going to be the presenter, and he's going to fight Chris Rock and Will Smith, and it's going to be this 3-way celebrity boxing acting match and just all this shit. But you don't need tradition. You don't need all these things that have previously been top concerns for creatives. You just need to build an audience. Like, who the fuck cares if you win an award if 10,000 people listen to a podcast, or 1 million people watch your movie or read your story? Like, who gives a shit? It literally doesn't matter anymore. And all these, the corporate media and these corporate awards are slowly ensuring their own demise by not innovating and not being creative. They're not giving people exciting content. They're just fucking coming up and reading names and being like, all right, see ya, who gives a fuck? Like, I don't know if I could name one award that was won, like one person who won an award besides Will Smith at the Oscars. And I only know that because he slapped Chris Rock and then later went on stage for his acceptance speech. I don't know who's nominated this year. Like, in anything, even best movie. Who the fuck won best movie? I don't know. Because no one gives a shit. That doesn't mean anything. So the last thing I wanted to say on Louis C.K., and, I'll probably, I end it here. We'll see. So people are saying, in addition to Louis C.K. is uncancelable because he won a Grammy, which I just said is bullshit, he's uncancelable because of the millions of people who love his content, who love how hilarious he is. People are also saying that because Louis won a Grammy, if you're good enough, you can uncancel yourself. And I wanted to point out the fact that this is also not true. And someone that I follow who has his own podcast and writes about racial issues and also is a great music artist, is Coleman Hughes. And I was fortunate enough to have him on the podcast about a year back, and I would love to have him on again. He shared this canceled database of people who have been canceled from their normal jobs for things that are like just you wouldn't think would be cancelable offenses. So people are saying, you know, look, Louis back. There's no such thing as cancel culture. No, there's cancel culture. Louis had a huge following before then. He was performing stadiums. He had an email list full of millions of people. He had that audience. But if you get canceled at the bottom, like if I got canceled right now, I'd be fucked, kind of, because my audience isn't 10 million people. It's still a lot of people. It's still thousands of people. I'm grateful for it. But if you get nicked at the beginning, you're kind of screwed. And Coleman Hughes shared this canceled database that has a list of over 200 people who have been canceled, who are just working normal jobs, said something, did something that was viewed out of line by mainstream media or the Twitter mob, and they got canceled. So I just wanted to bring this up and share a few examples of what I'm talking about. So if you want to view this, it's called canceledpeople.com/cancellations. Canceledpeople.com/cancellations. It's an entire database. It has the name of people, organization, position, offense, country, date it happened, the result. So number one on the list, just for an example, there's hundreds of these people, literally. And you don't know their names. A lot of them aren't famous. They're just average people who got fucking nipped in the butt. Number one is Rima Azar from Mount Allison University, a professor. The offense was that Azar maintained a personal blog that was critical of several tenets of critical race theory. In one post, she said that NB is not racist. I'm not sure what NB means. Or non-binary? I don't know. But she said NB is not racist. Canada is not racist. We do not have systemic racism or systemic discrimination. We just have systemic naivete. Following several students' complaints, Azar was suspended without pay. That was her offense. Nathan Sylvester of Bellevue ID Marshal's office. He was a police officer. Back in April of 21, Deputy Sylvester posted a TikTok video criticizing LeBron James after he doxed and threatened the officer involved in the shooting of Ma'Khia Bryant. In the video, Sylvester asked James, "So you don't care if a black person kills another black person, but you do care if a white cop kills a black person, even if he's doing it to save the life of another black person?" Nathan Sylvester was suspended without pay. Let's see, Josh Drake of Garland County, Arkansas, deputy prosecutor. Drake spoke out against an Arkansas law that allows landlords to file criminal charges rather than civil complaints against tenants for falling behind on rent. Drake told ProPublica, "I hate that law. It's unconstitutional. It constitutes cruel and unusual punishment." The county declined to comment on Drake's dismissal. He was fired. Let's do one more. This is with COVID. Dr. Martin Koldorf of the CDC, vaccine expert. After the CDC decided to pause the use of Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine, Koldorf expressed his dissenting professional opinion in an op-ed in The Hill. 2 days later, the CDC removed Koldorf from a working group over recent public statements you've made regarding policy opinions. 4 days after that, the CDC resumed the use of the J&J vaccine in line with Koldorf's opinion. He was removed from the group in April of 21. So again, you can go through it. There's like 217 examples or something like that, 217. I just wanted to make the point that when you see someone big like Louis C.K. who quote unquote uncancels themselves, they were never canceled in the first place. They might have been reprimanded. The few thousand blue check marks on Twitter might have came for them. They might have been forced to take a hiatus from their job for a period of time or chose to. But they were never really canceled because they had a built-in fan base going into the quote-unquote cancellation. The person that suffers from cancel culture the most is the average person that doesn't have the resources to fight it legally, doesn't have the audience. These people that just got canceled, they're not, a lot of them aren't creators. A lot of them don't have an email list of thousands or millions of people. They're just people at their jobs that happen to speak on an issue which their employer did not agree with, or maybe they agreed with it, but it was not in that employer's best interest to keep them on staff, and they were let go. And I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. If you are running a business, you have to protect the image of your business, and if someone, is saying wild shit, you could be well within your rights to let that person go as an employer. But again, if you go through this, a lot of these things are just normal takes in society that people chose to be vocal about, and their jobs are just like, fucking see you later. So the true victims of cancel culture, the people, if you're whining about being canceled with 2 million followers on Twitter, and I'm not saying Louis never did that. I'm talking about other people. They're just like, oh, I'm canceled, then I'm fucking, my career's over. Look at me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, bro, you have an audience. Your audience, your audience is, even if you get taken off Twitter, if you get taken off Facebook, YouTube, if you get Alex Jones, you still have, if you were smart, you were collecting emails. Maybe you have a Telegram, you were able to direct people towards another platform. You still have that outlet. But the average person who gets fired, there's no sort of say that person has. The repercussions are just, that's what it is, and that's that. All right, let's do one more topic. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the flow. I'm going to take one more sip of coffee. We're getting into Elon Musk. Elon Musk, baby. Yeah. Let's end it off, baby. Let's go out with a bang. Elon Musk joins the Twitter board of directors. Elon Musk did indeed join the Twitter board of directors. Musk will join the Twitter's board of directors after taking a 9.2 stake in the social media company. The news sent Twitter's shares up 2% on Tuesday. Can he join the Bitcoin board of directors? Because I would love that to go up as well. Through the conversation with Elon in recent weeks, it became clear to us that he would bring great value to our board, CEO Parag Agrawal said in a tweet. He's both a passionate believer and an intense critic of the service, which is exactly what we need on Twitter and in the boardroom to make us stronger in the long term, Agrawal added. Former chief Jack Dorsey praised the move, saying in a tweet that Musk, quote, cares deeply about our world and Twitter's role in it. I wanted Elon on the board for a long time, Dorsey added. I think this is a great move, even though Twitter and Facebook are slowly going to seep our soon muscularless, almost lifeless bodies into the metaverse within the next 50 years. This move gives me a little bit of hope. Don't get me wrong. I think this world is over. I think the physical world is over for sure. Like I'm going to get rid of all my shit and just buy a smaller apartment for a higher price in the metaverse. That's how crazy people are. Like, people will move into the metaverse where they're not actually living. It's just a digital piece of real estate. And they'll be like, no, I still have to be in New York. I still have to pay $4,000 a month for a studio that I suffocate in where the water doesn't even work. And I'll do that, it's happening. But this move does give me a little bit of hope. Elon Musk is wild on Twitter, and I think it's great to have a dose of wildness to shake things up. Say what you want about Twitter, say what you want about social media. Elon Musk is as far as I can tell, he's not bought and paid for. He's gone broke many times, or almost gone broke many times with Tesla and SpaceX. So it shows that his main motivation is not making money. It's innovating and talking shit and being a troll and having a good time and trying to get us to space, trying to get us onto electric cars. So it's not like he was bought by these shares. At least I don't think. But it seems like it would be a net positive to have him in the boardroom where you have these kind of Silicon Valley tech types, which Elon Musk is in that world, but he's different. He has fuck you money, and he had it for a while, and he has a fuck you mentality, and he tweets about taking shits. And one of his tweets, he said, this is probably his wildest tweet last year. He said, "Much is made lately of unrealized gains being a means of tax avoidance. So I propose selling 10% of my stock. Do you support this?" And he put it up to a vote on Twitter. And the vote was yes, 57.9%. And he ended up doing it. So he put up selling 10% of his Tesla stock on Twitter to a vote. And he fucking actually followed through on it. So the dude's wild. And when you have a bunch of people with an agenda in a room that is crafting an algorithm that controls the mind of billions of people across the planet, it's good to have someone like Elon Musk who's gonna say fuck it and doesn't need your approval and will say what he wants. And it's not a guarantee that the rest of the board will listen to him, but it is a small glimmer of hope that he has a vote. Aside from being a fuck you guy and just, being out there, being wild, he also has a pulse on the culture. He has a pulse on memes. He's good at trolling. He tweeted last December, he said, "Thinking of quitting my jobs and becoming an influencer full-time. What do you think?" The billionaire owner of Tesla and SpaceX said, "I'm thinking about becoming a full-time influencer. What do you think? Should I just say fucking and quit my job?" He tweeted that last December. A lot of people in boardrooms, a lot of people in tech, again, Elon Musk is certainly in the tech crowd, but they can seem out of touch more than anyone else that's in the tech space. Elon Musk seems like he has a grasp on culture, how to push buttons, what people care about, like tweeting about Squid Game, tweeting about taking a shit, like tweeting from the porcelain throne, all the shit he says. Like he's a billionaire, but at the same time, he tweets in a relatable fashion where he's clearly keeping tabs on where the culture is going. So I think that's also a positive for Twitter as well. And as I end off, I want to say that the first thing you should do, Elon Musk, is you should onboard Louis C.K. to Twitter. Because he's not currently on Twitter, but Twitter would be lucky to have him. And Louis C.K.'s first tweet should be, @Will Smith. "The only reason I haven't jerked off in front of your wife is because she has less hair than me and I don't find that attractive. I love me some long locks. By the way, my latest special slaps way harder than you. @Will Smith." Thank you guys for listening. I love you. And I'll talk to you next time.